Imagine waking up one morning in the United States and discovering that every dollar bill and every coin in your wallet has instantly lost its value. Stores no longer accept cash, banks no longer issue it, and signs everywhere read digital payments only. This is the reality of a sudden overnight shift to a fully cashless America. No one had time to prepare. Not the government, not the banks, not the businesses, and certainly not the millions of people who rely on physical money every single day. The first hours would be chaotic. People rushing to gas stations, grocery stores, pharmacies, only to be turned away because cash is no longer recognized as legal currency. Confusion would spread faster than information. Most citizens would not even believe something like this was possible. Within the first 24 hours, millions of Americans would find themselves disconnected from the financial system entirely. People who keep savings at home, those without bank accounts, and the elderly who depend heavily on cash would be hit the hardest. Suddenly, they would have no way to buy basic necessities. Lines would pile up in front of banks and ATMs, not for withdrawals but for answers. But the machines would remain silent and the screens frozen, showing only a message stating that cash operations have been permanently discontinued. Fear would begin to rise, and a sense of uncertainty would spread from small towns to major cities. Businesses, especially small ones, would experience immediate shock. Many small shops, food trucks, local markets, and family-run stores rely heavily on cash because digital fees cut into their profit. They would struggle to adapt, especially if the transition was sudden and without warning. Some store owners would close their doors temporarily, while others might attempt to quickly set up digital systems. But with millions of others doing the same thing at the same time, networks would crash under the pressure. Payment apps would lag, card readers would freeze, and customer frustration would grow. The digital system, though powerful, is not designed to replace every cash transaction in a single night. Meanwhile, the government would urge calm, repeating messages about progress, modernization, and security. Officials would claim that digital payments reduce crime, prevent tax evasion, and protect the economy. But millions of Americans would not see modernization. They would see a loss of control. For generations, physical money has been a symbol of independence, privacy, and personal freedom. Without cash, every transaction becomes trackable. Every purchase leaves a digital footprint. Many citizens would fear that they no longer own their money, but instead have permission to use it. This fear would fuel debates, protests, and arguments across the country. In large cities, the impact would be immediate and visible. Homeless communities who rely on cash donations would face a crisis. Street performers, small vendors, and local service workers would suddenly lose their income. People who do not have smartphones, stable internet, or access to digital banking would become financially stranded. In rural America, the effects would be even worse. Many rural stores still accept mostly cash, and some areas have limited internet access. Overnight digitization would push these communities into isolation. Without functioning shopping options, people might travel miles to find a store that can support digital payments. This would create desperation and frustration. As the first week unfolds, the banking system would begin to feel intense pressure. Millions of new accounts would need to be created. Customer service lines would overflow. Fraud cases would rise as scammers take advantage of confused citizens. People would receive fake messages claiming to convert their cash to digital dollars, tricking them into giving away personal information. Law enforcement agencies would struggle to keep up with the sudden spike of digital fraud and identity theft. Even legitimate banks would be overwhelmed by the demand for quick solutions. With no cash left, every transaction in America becomes dependent on electricity and internet. A simple outage could shut down entire communities. Restaurants wouldn't be able to process payments. Gas pumps, which rely on digital authorization, would stop functioning. Even hospitals that rely on quick transactions for emergencies would face delays. The fragility of the system would become terrifyingly clear. People would realize that the ability to buy food, fuel, medicine, and services now depends on servers, networks, and satellites. A single cybersecurity incident could freeze the nation. At the same time, Powerful corporations and financial institutions would benefit. Credit card companies would earn massive profits from transaction fees. Big tech companies controlling digital wallets would gain access to the spending behavior of millions. Data would become more valuable than the money itself. This amount of financial transparency might make some people feel protected, but for many Americans, it would feel like an invasion. Privacy would become a luxury, not a right. Every spending habit could be monitored, analyzed, and used for advertising or corporate strategy. Public reaction would split the country into two groups: those who welcome a digital future and those who feel robbed of financial freedom. Younger generations who already use digital payments daily might adapt quickly, viewing it as the next natural step in modern life. But older generations, low-income families, undocumented workers, and people who distrust the government would resist strongly. Tension could grow into nationwide protests demanding a return to cash. Social media would be filled with videos of heated arguments, frustrated customers, and confused business owners. The story would dominate the news cycle around the world. As months pass, America might adjust to the new system, but not without permanent changes. Some communities would grow stronger with digital literacy programs helping people adapt. Others would decline as people move to cities where digital infrastructure is stronger. Crime would evolve too. Instead of theft and robberies, cybercrimes and hacking incidents would surge. Criminals would target digital wallets, steal identities, and manipulate online transactions. Law enforcement would need a new generation of cyber experts just to keep up. On the other hand, certain benefits would gradually emerge. Lost wallets would no longer contain money. Businesses would no longer worry about counterfeit bills. Government aid, disaster relief, and social benefits could be distributed instantly with a click. But these benefits would come with a trade-off: increased dependency on institutions, technology, and the internet. Every person would technically be included in the system, but only as long as they follow the rules of that system. A simple bank error or technical glitch could leave someone temporarily unable to access their money. In a cashless world, mistakes carry heavier consequences. Over time, society would reshape itself. Spending habits would change because digital payments make it easier to buy impulsively. People would need to learn new financial discipline. Schools would introduce classes teaching digital money management. Banks would create new rules, new protections, and new fees. The entire economic landscape would evolve. But the memory of the sudden transition would never be forgotten. It would be a reminder of how quickly life can change when money itself is redefined. For many Americans, the biggest emotional impact would be the loss of the physical connection to money. The texture of a dollar bill, the feeling of holding your own cash, the comfort of knowing you have something valuable in your pocket, all of that would disappear. In its place would be a digital number on a screen. The psychological shift would be bigger than the financial one. Humanity has used physical money for thousands of years. Losing it in a single night would create a sense of emptiness, uncertainty, and disbelief. In the end, a cashless America could eventually function smoothly. But the overnight transition would expose weaknesses in technology, inequalities in society, and fears hidden deep within people. It would show how fragile modern systems can be and how much trust humans place in something as simple as money. This scenario, though hypothetical, raises an important question. Is the world truly ready to live in a future where money exists only as digital information? And if such a day ever arrived, would society adapt gracefully, or would the consequences ripple across generations?